Welcome back to CBS This Morning. A record 16 million Americans have reportedly already cast ballots for president this year. But just because a ballot is returned early does not mean it will be counted early or at all. More than 300 election-related lawsuits in at least 40 states have been filed this year, and many challenge some aspect of mailed ballots, including witness requirements and ballot deadlines. We got rare behind-the-scenes access to an election office to show you what might happen to your ballot once it arrives to be counted.
Oh, see, we got a good amount.
We got a lot.
Wow. Results in the 2020 election are already pouring in.
Yeah, heavier than yesterday.
These are absentee ballots in Rockland County, New York.
Democracy happening before our eyes.
And Kristen Zabrowski-Stavisky and Patricia Giblin are co-election commissioners here, a Democrat and a Republican working together.
Can I help you?
Sure.
Really? All right, Rhonda, you're in. Joe, you're in.
See that?
But nationally, Republicans and Democrats are fighting.
This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen.
Not only to turn out their voters,
he is throwing up every roadblock to try and suppress the vote,
but to make sure that each vote is legitimate and counted.
And sometimes when there are challenges, people will say, without that stamp, we're not sure when it got here.
What you're about to see is perhaps the most consequential moment in the journey of a typical mail-in ballot.
So the first thing we would do is scan it in, and then we're going to just view the signature.
Oh, wow.
So
When election workers try to verify that a vote is genuine by checking the signature against what's on file.
Tricia and I would make a ruling.
Yep, so
It
it's
matches.
substantially.
While the commissioners asked us to blur voters' names, we got to see exactly how much variation they're willing to accept.
We're looking at substantial similarities, right? So we're not handwriting experts. We're not sitting there saying, oh, that Y is slightly different. That's not going to count.
If your ballot is going to get hung up, though, this is most likely where it will happen. And in a close election, that could be decisive. Across the U.S., missing or mismatched signatures doomed more than 150,000 ballots in 2016. And sure enough,
Ooh,
This looks very different.
very different, yeah. So that's an issue.
Ooh.
this voter's signature sent the commissioners in search of additional documentation.
So now we're going to look at her absentee application.
That one is a
That
match.
one matches.
And we watched as they looked through 4 signatures on file.
So it almost appears like she has a very serious signature and as the voters say, a quick signature.
It just seems like the pen strokes are different.
Yeah.
I don't want to get involved. It's your call, but it just seems...
The decision rejected, at least for now.
We may talk to her and see. She may sign an attestation that she actually completed the ballot.
In New York and at least 18 other states, voters are notified if their ballot has been rejected and given an opportunity to fix it in a process known as ballot curing. But in most of the country, there is no such requirement, so the ballots can be tossed out, and not only for signature issues.
This isn't sealed.
We saw 2 other ballots set aside because the internal envelopes weren't sealed, though those were eventually accepted with no evidence of tampering.
This right here, just to put a fine point on it, this demonstrates why it's so important for people to take extreme care
That's right.
when they're filling out their ballot.
That's right.
After the initial checks, the sealed ballots are scanned in and moved to a storage room.
It's really secure.
Look at that.
All right.
There's
Teamwork.
3 locks. Democratic lock, a Republican lock, and if we were ever impounded by the court, that lock would be for the sheriff.
In New York, they aren't actually counted until 3 days after the polls close, so state officials can compare a list of absentee voters against the names of those who voted in person.
So the point of the delay in counting is to make sure no one is double voting.
Right.
Yes. Election results are always unofficial.
Yeah.
On election night.
That's true for every state in America, where any vote can be contested or even thrown out. And this year, that fight is expected to be fiercer than most.
Why, at this busy time, did you want to show us this?
I think it's all about transparency. We want to show the voters, first, how hard we work, that their ballot is going to be secure when it's here, and that we're concerned about their ballot, and we will take every precaution we can.
We want to demystify it, right? People don't know, and they're nervous about things because they don't know. So even though we're extremely busy right now, this gives us the opportunity to say to people, look, this is what happens to your ballot. We take it seriously. We want your vote to be counted. And these are all the steps we take to make sure it does.
Isn't that interesting?
It gives me comfort seeing how hard they were. Number one, I didn't realize they had to work that hard in terms of checking, double checking, rechecking again. And the fact that they take it so seriously and that they allowed you to come in and see it.
I like that there are partisan locks, a Republican lock and a Democratic lock.
So there are two keys for the storage room, but also two keys for the drop box outside. So nothing in that office can happen without a Republican and a Democrat signing off. And that's, in fact, true all across the country. There's a lot of states that have that kind of dual system of checking.
Yeah.
But here's a message I'll bring people from the Republican commissioner, Ms. Giblin, there in the piece. She says, if you can vote in person, you should do it, because there is less of a chance that something will get hung up if you do it in person.
I think
you can see why.
Well, the very important point you made there about the signature, because I mean, one thing I've noticed in these days when people sign for everything, paying by card,
barely
or whatever,
a sign.
People just literally slash a line. But when you go vote in person, you can usually see your signature that you registered with, and you can know to match it. And sometimes people now are signing so many different ways.
And you're there, you pull the lever, or you fill in the bubble, and your signature, you're counted right there on the spot.
Yes.
If you vote by mail, as Tricia Giblin put it, you are inviting people to challenge it. They have the right to challenge it if you're voting on that piece of paper. Now, another thing I'll point out, and this is important, 18 states have to actually call you to say, hey, there's a problem. Most of the country, that's not the case. However, right now, people, if you're worried, if you already voted, you can use a ballot tracking method in your state. Most states have that. And if you want more information about exactly how to get this all just right, because it really does matter.
You about to give your cell?
I'm going to give the. Please visit CBSNews.com.
Got all the information. We'll just call you.
Yep.
So big thing, the signature and seal the envelope. Seal the envelope.
Be very careful.
Careful with both of those.
And follow up to make sure it's been accepted, because you may not get a call.
All right. And next week, we're sending Tony on the road on a trip through some of the most crucial battleground states for a series of reports called At America's Crossroads. Tony will talk to voters about the issues that matter to them in the places that could help decide the 2020 presidential election. That starts Monday right here. But Tony will be out before that right here on CBS This Morning.